Hey there. So I'm making this video. I'll probably entitle it something like "The mind cannot literally be ill or sick." The mind cannot literally be ill or sick. The DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of, I think it says mental disorders, talks about mental disorders. It doesn't use the term mental illness. I think mental illness is maybe mentioned once in the book, maybe, or some reference. However, popularly, mental disorders, psychological disorders, are referred to as mental illness or mental illnesses. And then we have departments in various levels of government called, you know, the Department of Mental Health, blank county mental health. And that's, to put it nicely, what's the word? Malinformed, misinformed. It's misinformed, to put it nicely, because the mind cannot be literally ill or sick. So to talk about mental illness or mental disease or mental health is to talk about something that does not literally exist. And it serves to not be useful. And effectively, um, these lines of thought, this reasoning, is used as excuses to imprison innocence in the form of civil commitment, and also to excuse those who are guilty in the form of the insanity defense, or and if not to excuse them, to divert them into the medical system instead of the criminal justice system. And yeah, I've made other videos about why civil commitment should be abolished, and I stand by those. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. Half the time, I mean, I have my own reasoning and my own ways of thinking about it, but half the time I just refer, you know, my viewers, people who view these videos, or you who are viewing this right now, to read books by a psychiatrist whose name was Thomas Szasz. He passed away in the year 2012 at the age of 92. His first big book, he's written I think about 35 books. His first book was called The Myth of Mental Illness. And yeah, I would encourage all individuals, especially all adults, and especially all those who work in the psychiatric slash counseling slash mental health slash whatever else field slash social work, to read books by Thomas Szasz so you can be informed, try to understand the truth of the matter. I say that confidently. Um, but yeah, honestly, I feel disappointed. I'm disappointed in my governments. I'm disappointed in my fellow citizens that uh, the injustices of civil commitment and the insanity defense are so widely accepted as fair and just. I imagine, myself, what if I was born in 1823 and chattel slavery was still allowed and approved of where I live? I think I may feel, I was never born in 1823 that I know of, but I imagine I feel a little like that maybe. If, here I am in 1823, talking theoretically, and, the majority of society that I'm around, and, family or friends and otherwise, think that chattel slavery is okay, and here I am I read what Uncle Tom's Cabin, I don't know when that was published, or some book, or for some reason I become, you know, um, convinced that chattel slavery is wrong. I feel a little like that, but the year is 2012, and instead of chattel slavery, as Thomas Szasz referred to it, we have psychiatric slavery, where individuals are forcibly converted into being mental patients. Using coercion and force and effective imprisonment is, is de facto illegal to try and stop one's own body from functioning, aka suicide. Attempting suicide is de facto illegal, and the punishment is to get locked up in a hospital ward. And that is not right. Suicide should not be de facto illegal. We should not encourage anybody to stop their own body from working. We should, as a society, we should even try to persuade peacefully and non-forcefully. We should try to persuade people to not stop their own body from functioning. And how should we do that? We'll try to make their life as pleasant as possible and help facilitate them being able to make a life worth living for their own self. My understanding is generally people who do attempt to stop their own body from working have probably either had a lot of trauma or a lot of bad life situations and consider their life not worth living, hence they want to stop it. And using coercion and force and psychiatric torture are not the right ways to go about trying to decide to create a life worth living. Anyway, and I'm going to title this still, mental illness does not literally exist, or or mental health doesn't literally exist either. It's a metaphor. Thomas Szasz refers to it as literalizing metaphor when we treat mental illness as a real illness, which is not. Cancer is a real illness. I guess you'd call a broken bone a real illness. You can see it on an x-ray. If you're not sure if it's there, you can take an objective medical test to determine if a bone is broken. If it's not a clear cut, like it's poking through the skin. And kidney disease is a real disease. Neurosyphilis is a real disease. Alzheimer's is a real disease. And how do those real diseases differ from fake metaphorical diseases like that are in the DSM? Well, there's objective medical tests you can do. You don't ask questions to determine if somebody's bone is broken. You can get an idea, but ultimately, if there's a question, you can do an objective medical test. With mental disorders, there is not an objective medical test. You simply ask questions and see if somebody meets certain criteria that have been voted upon to determine if they have a certain metaphorical disease called in the big gray book a mental disorder, I would think. Yeah. So this is longer than I expected. Anyway, I'm impressed if you gotten through this far. Thanks for watching. And please watch my other videos, share this video with others, visit my websites, and subscribe to this channel.